Thanks a lot, guys. I'm so glad to see this many people here today. I've been excited about this for a while. I am Gina Poertner. I'm the owner of Life Balance Sports and Wellness. I have been in Kansas City about 12 years. I started Life Balance in 2007, starting in 2008, kind of the end of that year, first of that year. So I've been in business for quite a while. My specialty is bike fitting. I work with all kinds of cyclists from beginner to world class, little tiny kids all the way up to senior games competitors and older people just wanting to ride and have fun. So really enjoyed my career with that. And so we're going to move through a few slides and some tips. There's also a handout that I believe is going to be available to you online. You can also email me later and I can get that to you. To answer questions we don't have time for today. I'm used to giving 45-minute to an hour speeches, and today I get 20 minutes, so I want to make sure you have information that we want to cover. So we're going to talk about sizing of bikes and how to do that. That's kind of one of the harder parts of purchasing a bike, whether it's new to you, you're buying someone else's bike that they've had, or a brand new bike, either way. And then we're going to talk about, and the really important part is your positioning on that bike. Okay, and those are really critical to keep you healthy and happy on your bike. So we have sizing versus fitting. Sizing is getting the right size bike for you. You don't want a bike that is way too long and you're doing this or you're all crunched up like that. It's kind of like, and the thing is, it's kind of like buying jeans. Depending on what brand you buy, depends on what size you're gonna get. And I can tell you, Christina is ace at helping you with sizing as well. If you get onto her shop, she's really good at knowing what size you need. The top tube length is gonna be critical for you, okay? That's the most important one, especially as females. I'm short-waisted, I've got long legs. The leg length, that's gonna be there. On an adult bike, unless you're 6'5", 6'7", you're not gonna have to worry about a bike not being tall enough, okay? It's your top tube and your reach that's really key, and we're gonna go into more about that. Fitting is being correctly positioned on your bike, okay? And then, we see people when we're out riding, and we've probably been on bikes where we just didn't feel very good. This bike fits me like a glove. I bought this when it was new in 2001, and it's still my favorite bike. So I can ride for hours just like this. I can move here and be just fine. I can come up to the tops, whatever I need. You'll see people out there and they're way stretched out, or they're like really crunched up, or just something. You can kind of tell. And then a lot of people, they look like they're good on their bike, but when I do some muscular testing, things like that, I find out, hey, there's a lot we can actually do to take some torque off your lower back, to help the knees. Knees and backs are probably the biggest complaints I get. The other one is upper back between the shoulder blades. That's another positioning issue. So being positioned correctly on your bike makes a world of a difference in how far you can ride, how good you feel at the end of your ride or in the middle of your ride. You're gonna recover better, and that's really key. If you recover better and you're feeling good, your next ride is gonna be so much better than that. And if you're doing, a lot of us are doing the pay rides, and we're doing that 62 or 100 miles. That's a lot of miles. And when we're training for that as well, repetitive motion. So we want to make sure that we want to keep the muscles and the joints, especially as we age. And little kids, I do coach the Donderdog Youth Cycling Program. And those little kids, their growth plates are just hammered by their bicycles, and they don't realize it. And the control, that's the other thing. If you're way out here, your control of that bike is not good, because all the control's trying to come from here, and you can probably feel that, okay? If you're crunched up, then your center of gravity's off. It's pretty wonky. If you're sitting good on your bike, there's all kinds of good things that happen. So your control's better. What else do I need to tell you? So efficiency is our effort and how well our bodies handle that. And that's when I refer to efficiency, that's what we're talking about. So on your efforts, I do some testing. recreational riders, I'll kind of explain how I operate a little bit. Recreational riders, I give you an option. If you want a performance test, you can get that done. If you don't want that, we don't do that part. What it does, I put you on what's called a CompuTrainer. It's connected to a laptop, and it gives me a quantitative analysis of your pedal stroke and what your body is doing on the bike. It gives me graphic, it gives me pie graphs, it gives me charts, it gives me all kinds of numbers, which are a lot of fun. And so I really enjoy that. A lot of my triathletes, now that we have Zwift and some other things, tax and things that have come into play, a lot of my athletes over the years have used a CompuTrainer as part of their Ironman training. And so that's been really key in helping with their power numbers and training and their indoor rides. So in the wintertime, if you're on a trainer and you have access to like get on Zwift, that's a lot of fun. If you like to ride outside, that's the best. I love riding outside in the winter too. So we want to be correctly positioned just to feel good, not only on the bike, but once we get off. Because the next morning you don't want to wake up and just feel like, oh my God, I rode too hard, or things like that. So positioning really matters. So here's some positions that we want to talk about. There are different kinds of bikes: mountain bikes, city bikes, road bikes, triathlon. Triathlon is my specialty, the time trial and triathlon position. Part of it, I think, is because I love being in that position. That's my favorite way to ride. I can just get on the open road and go. I also love touring. One of my favorite weekly rides is with a group of friends. It's just a recovery ride. And we're in street clothes going about, 10 or 11 miles an hour. And we do that for an hour, and it's just to spin the legs out after a hard weekend of racing and riding. So I do enjoy that too. And so I do like being more upright. I have a different bike that I use for that. This one is my trainer bike. I've actually bent the frame just enough that going downhill, it shimmy's a little too much right now. So this is my trainer bike. And then I have a mountain bike that I will take on the streets, and I set things a little bit differently. If I'm just doing some touring, I set it in a different position. If I'm gonna do some downhill or go up to like Indian Cave State Park or something and hit the single track. So I've set up people for multiple positions on the same bike, and you can just do those quick changes, either with the height here, handlebars, seat tube, and then angles, and all of that. So no matter how you ride, each individual person has a perfect position. So when I do a bike fit, I'm setting your bike up for you, and you're getting it set up for you, and you're getting it set up for you and you. I'm not gonna put your position on somebody else, because that doesn't work. Each body is individual, and that is how a bike fitting needs to work. So there's no cookie cutter charts that we can use. There are some guides as far as if you raise the saddle, depending on the seat angle, what the rise and run, it gets into math. But no matter how you like to ride, whether it's for shorter rides, longer rides, whatever, you have a perfect position for you that's going to alleviate a lot. Cycling hurts. We're going to be, because we're hard on ourselves when we just go. But we're going to alleviate a lot of potential injury and pain that really shouldn't be there, and that's what's important. There's nothing I want more than for people to just enjoy their bike rides and have a lot of fun doing it. So the better your body functions, the longer we can ride and keep going. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to start going about this. Christina touched on top tube. This is key. That's your reach. That is from here to here. You don't want to be all stretched out or crunched up. So there's some measurements that I like to use when you go to a bike shop, or if you're looking for a bike, say you see something on Facebook Market, and you want to decide, is this bike for you? If you have a bike that you feel good on, one good measurement, and measure in centimeters, because that's how the bike companies do it, go from the center right here to the center of the tube up front, okay? And if you go level, to where it's level to the floor, that is your functional top tube. Now, some tubes are angled more down like that. Don't measure that one. You'll need to know, but you want the functional, and most bike specs, they're going to come with functional and actual on their top tube on the measurement. So you want this that's level to the floor, because that's where your reach is really going to come into play. Okay, mine comes out at about 50 and a half. I know that if I buy a road bike, I want something, this is a 48. I've been set up on a size 51 that worked. There's a difference like where this is, but where you are over the cranks is key, and that's why. So if you have a bike that's too big, yeah, we can scoot the saddle way up and we can put a really short stem on it, but you're not going to get a lot of the punch that you could get out of that bike because you're not because your force vectors on the crank, this is where math comes in. Force vectors on the crank matter. So you want your knee or a certain place, and as well as your hips and all of that in the right place. So the top tube is really going to be your key, and other measurements to go armed with, your total height. That's what most bike companies want to see, is your total height. Another one is in centimeters. Go from the sternal notch, that little V right here, and just go down to crotch. There's number 1, and then get your inseam. Okay, so that's inseam to the floor. Those are 3 key measurements to take with you when you're shopping, and that's going to help you know. Some bike companies will ask for a torso measurement, and I think that's really good because that helps. On your stems, bikes come with a stock stem, so we want to be careful with that. Most stock stems are 100, 110. Lately, I've been seeing 90s coming back, which makes me really happy. The longer the stem is, the more over the front tire you are. You want more of your weight over the back. That's your traction, okay? Especially if you're riding gravel or like the fine chat trails, like the Trolley Trail or out at Shawnee Mission Park, something like that. You want that weight back here. That's where your traction is, and that's what part of the safety is. So then to shorten it up, if you end up with a bike too big and you put a really short stem on, every movement is going to be very much magnified, and so you're almost oversteering, and that becomes difficult. So that's another safety factor. And this is where working with kids, that's why I really want, everybody wants to buy them a bike that they can grow into. It's one of the most unsafe things to do, and it also gives them a false sense of the control and how to control a bike. So we want them to, if we can, get them a bike that fits them, and then trade a bike, trade a bike with someone else, get into that hand-me-down, especially, and that's what we do at Donderdog a lot. We pass bikes around a lot there. Every year, there's like musical bikes on what kids are riding that year, and that works. It works, it's so much healthier for them. But us too, we look at a bike, I really like that bike, and it's, pretty paint color, that's how I shop, so I want a nice paint color. But that bike, it may just not be the right one for you. And if you go into a shop and it's not the right size, ask them. If you go to Midwest Cyclery, talk to Christina, and she'll pull up the specs on that bike, and she knows. And not everything, like if they have a small, medium, and large, say you get on the medium, but the reach, it seems like, I need a small. No, that's not always the case, because what bike companies are doing right now is weird, and especially with the gravel bikes. So kind of get online a little bit, go armed with some knowledge, and then talk to your bike shop owners. But yeah, Christina, and I've worked with her on a number of cases. I used to do my bike fits out there. I'm actually down in Lenexa now, out of our pole vault academy, so I also do track and field. So then let's get into a little bit more about fitting too. Fitting is not about the bike, and I cannot stress that enough. Seriously, like 95%, it is not about the bike. It's about your body and your function of those muscles. So, we've all read a lot of the sports physiology stuff on, proper muscle, proper alignment, and all the functional movement and proper movement and all of that. That's the same thing on our bike. We really do need that. So this is how I'm reining myself in on this short little speech. So like I said, your back and your knees are especially vulnerable, and repetitive motion too. I just got done getting someone set up who had 2 of their lumbar vertebrae fused, and they've had a past knee replacement. Knee replacements and hip replacements usually aren't a big problem. Occasionally, they'll end up with a leg length discrepancy of 1 millimeter or 2. Most leg length discrepancies is not bones, it's tight muscles. And so it's a variation in your muscles. I can correct that in 3 minutes with most people coming in. If they've had a hip surgery or a knee surgery, that can be different. So if you've had that kind of thing, sometimes that can make a difference there too. But I check all of that stuff. Part of my process, getting you on a treatment table. We spend a few minutes there, and I do an assessment. We do some muscular flexibility and strength. And that comes into play on your bike fit to personalize your fitting and your positioning to you. So when you're looking for bike fitters, the handout explains a little bit more on how to pick a bike fitter. Make sure they have that background in sports physiology or gone to medical school. In fact, ask them what university they dissected their human cadaver. If they can't answer that question, go find another fitter. Yeah, it's, you know, there's a lot of the shop fitters, they can help and get you probably in a better position than a lot of people are in. But if you are looking at, especially, you know, some injuries or a past injury or really being set up correctly, they don't have the physiology knowledge of that. They know bikes and they're great at that. It's like, I'd rather send my bike to them, let them work on it. Great, you know, I don't have to work on my own bike. Fitting is a whole different animal. That really is about the body and its function. So that's really key. So this little guy, he's in his bike position, and we're going to look at him on his bike in just a little bit. So what do we see here? Without the bike, does that show you what your body is really doing a little bit more? Okay, there's like one wrong thing that like just screamed at me when I generated this silhouette. Anybody see it? Okay, his feet are actually level on the pedals, if that helps. Okay, that should not be down like that. So when he's in full extension, I'm guessing he's a little low in his saddle. That's, yeah. So ankling, that's one thing I look at. I look at your pedal stroke, everything from your head to toe. Cleat position. Cleat position is huge, especially with knee issues, okay? Cleat position, float. There's some cases you need float, other cases absolutely not. That's actually going to destroy your knees. And so whatever type of riding you do, whatever type of pedals that you want, we're going to work with that. So I don't tell anybody what kind of pedals they should use or not use. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you already have. I have SPDs on this one. I do change it out to my road pedals. I like Speed Play Zeros. So I'll change it on that. And then whatever, like I said, whatever type of riding. So let's go back to putting him on his bike. And now you see where he's at. He's not, his reach is pretty decent. To me, on his tummy, he looks a little bit crunched up, I think. He could, on this one, I think I modified the photo a little bit, didn't I? That's okay. So, yeah, he's either hunchback or he's wearing a camelback, one of the two. But we want that reach good, and with his feet level, that's the other thing, is I'm not only going to look from you the side, it's more than just viewing from the side. I look at your back, I look at that hip rock, what your feet are doing. Foot plant is huge. How many of you play basketball? Anybody play basketball? Anybody play volleyball? Okay, some of you guys have done this. Okay, so your foot plant, you know, when you set up for a basketball shot, set your feet shoulder like that. It's the same thing on the bike. Your foot plant is key to riding well and riding comfortable and continuing. Hot foot is a big deal. I see that quite a bit. That's not always coming from your feet. That comes from the saddle sometimes too. Just improper placement or the wrong saddle for you. I'm not even going to get into that can of worms, but saddles, come see me. That is a whole nother thing. Women, we have different saddle issues than men do, and it's a little tougher to find a saddle that works. Give me a shout and I can help you with that. And I can take a question or two if any of you have them that I have not touched on.
Who has a question? I have to give you the mic. All right.
So I have 4 different bikes. On each bike, I use a different saddle. I have a different saddle. I have a different pedals. I have different shoes. I know this is excessive. We all have our things. I've only been properly fitted on 2 of them.
Okay.
Should I be more consistent across bikes? Obviously, they're different. I've got one that's one's a mountain bike, one's a trail bike, one's a tri-bike, one's a just regular old road bike.
With that, if you've got like 2 road bikes, you can kind of take one setup usually. It depends on the geometry. So if your geometry is the same, you can replicate that on a second bike. But with a triathlon bike, a road bike, a trail bike, and a gravel bike, those numbers, those measurements, because there are certain measurements we take on how we've got this set up. So we have basically the saddle height is a key one, your reach is a key one, the tilt is another one. that doesn't work because the geometry is different. And so people try and then they get really wigged out and they have no idea what's going on, which I get it, because that's what we want to do. It really doesn't work. So you really need to focus on that bike and how you should be set up on each one. And I've done that. I've spent like an entire day with somebody who brought me 4 bikes, and that's not uncommon. So yeah, we do, so in a session, and that's the way I do it, I just add a little bit for each bike, and it's a lot cheaper that way. But yeah, so we set one up, and then the other ones, because there's certain things I've already found, like what's going on with your body. Are you tight? Are you, do you have muscular, like strength differences going on? We already know that from the first session, but the next one, we can just focus on getting that bike set up to you. And that, yeah, I've done that a number of times. I have so many people bring in 2 bikes. I have a road bike and I have a mountain bike. I have a tri-bike and a road bike. Triathlon bikes are very different. That seat post, it's almost straight up and down on most of them now. That's not something, back when I bought this bike, this was actually used in quite a few triathlons. It was really before a lot of those TT bikes came in. 2000, 2001 is when this bike came out. So, yeah, the difference is that, does that answer?
It does.
Okay, great.
And I have a question. Gina, I'm Amy.
Yeah.
Chris is my husband. You fit him
hi,
on a bike, so good to see you in person. I will say, Gina, my husband, we joke that he was born, like he rolled out of his mom at birth on a bike. Like a bike is his church, is his everything, and he's suffered an injury, and Gina's been great in working with him. So so we appreciate you at our household, because if he's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah,
if he can't be on the bike. But I wonder if you're going through physical therapy, or like he had neck issues and you're working with a doctor, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, whoever, are there some questions or things that you should bring up with them when you say, I'm doing this because I want to be able to ride?
Right, yeah, and when I bring somebody in for a bike fit, one of the first questions after I get your name, address, phone number, I want to know what kind of riding you're going to do. I want to know your physical history. Did you sprain an ankle when you were 6 years old? I need to know that. It's going to show up on the bike somewhere anyway, but if I know this going in, I can get to that before we get into the weeds. I do work with a lot of healthcare practitioners. I'm a certified health education specialist. My background is in sports physiology. I studied athletic training, gave that up because the travel was way too extensive. So I have that whole background, and I focus on bike fits from that point of view. So if I need, if I have somebody, I've had somebody came in, they did not know they had a bulging disc. They actually ended up with surgery later. It's like something was going on with their back that didn't make sense. I'm like, you really need to go see somebody. Sent them to an ortho, and boom, it was probably about to blow, and they wondered why they had back pain. If you're already working with a healthcare professional, that's important too, because I don't want to tell you something different than what they have you do. We need to stay on treatment. And if I know better what they have you doing, we're going to follow that. Okay. I've worked with a lot of physical therapists, and part of my schooling was the same as what they go through. And then I forked off into the sports physiology, not the lab route, but the clinical route. And so a lot of us, we go through all of that. Same type of thing. So yeah, I do work with them, and if you're working with that chiro or PT or even OT, I've had some OT folks. When I was working at the U.S. Paralympics, I coached U.S. Paralympic riders, and that was huge because they're all in some sort of therapy with that. So that's key. Another question?
Well, no, I'm going to have to say if you do have questions, let's find Gina afterwards and continue to ask some of those things. Thank you so much, Gina. So
thank you, guys.
All right, we're back. We're back because this is the part that's fun for us, which is trying to recruit you to think differently about how you get engaged with Bike Walk KC. So a couple things that are happening right now that are really exciting and a great opportunity to be part of is we have launched new committees as part of our board work to really kind of help engage more people in the conversations, expand kind of our conversations among the board itself, but also to create new opportunities for people to get involved. Sometimes you may not be interested in full full board service, because it may feel like it's too overwhelming, although this is the best board to serve on of all of them. I'm just saying. But these committees are a really great opportunity to really work closely with Bike Walk KC. And one thing I have to say, in my board experience, this is one of the best professional staff of a nonprofit that I've ever worked with. We have an incredible team of people, so it is a really fun environment because you get to learn a lot while working with them. But they also really seek your input and make you feel like you have a really active role to play. So we really encourage you to check out those board committees. We also are actively recruiting for our board. So Alyssa, you are relatively new.
Yeah.
Yep. And Mary, you've been on for about 2 years now. Yep. So we are constantly recruiting board members, and we really encourage you to come. We will sit down and talk to you, share what that looks like, what that commitment is, and we really encourage you to kind of come out and get involved. And then, of course, membership is really important as well. So that is how we work as an organization, and it is a really great gift to give to someone who may be thinking about dipping their toes into new forms of active transportation, but also it's just a really nice thing to do to support this organization. It's a very limited lift, but you can do an awful lot with that. And I'm just gonna put you guys a little bit on the spot on how you guys got involved in the board and maybe, what you might encourage somebody new to Bike Walk to do.
So this is my first board appointment. I couldn't imagine a different board to be on. Like I said, in terms of community and in my interests. But one of the things that was, I think, struck me probably most profoundly is when I went to meet with the team before I was on the board. And I got to meet a lot of the folks. I got to tour the facility, learn more about the programs that we do, community outreach, some of the school programs that Mary mentioned. It really is tremendous. And I've since reached out and said, hey, do we do like team building stuff? Like, I just want to bring my team up and educate them on the programs. And they do that. So if you are interested in learning more about Bike Walk, just, reaching out to us, reaching out to the team, going up and getting a tour of the facility and learning more about the programs, it's really incredible. And I think it's more, the piece that struck me most, maybe secondary to the touring the facility, is learning that there's so much more than just cycling, right? It's what the team does, the commitment and the time and the energy that goes into community infrastructure and some of these programs that we support. And so, if you have any curiosity at all, just coming and having a conversation with the team and seeing where we live is pretty impactful.
I know that I believe the schools that they go to are within the greater Kansas City area, Missouri, and Kansas. So that's kind of how I got interested. They serve a diverse children, and that is one thing that I would like to see, which they do a great job. But that doesn't mean they can't continue to go other places, and maybe places that we wouldn't think about. So, I know board members, we're looking for them for the greater Kansas City area. I think sometimes maybe in Olathe or parts of Wyandotte County, Clay County. So, the more diversity in the board, the more diverse in locations, the better it is for them to serve the greater Kansas City area. So that's one thing I like about that. And I know they're always recruiting, so, do that. And it's nice to see the programs. I enjoy going to a few of the activities that I can. Go to the school, if you can check with the people and go to the schools and see the kids that are learning how to ride bikes. Or even women. I know we have a women's where they have a teach women. And I was at one of them when probably a 30-year-old lady did not know how to ride a bike, and they took the time to teach her. So, it's never too late to learn how to ride a bike and enjoy it and join other groups. So those are the things that Bike Walk does.
So we'll just let you know that following this conference, we'll be sending out an email with a lot of information and different ways to get involved. I'm happy to give you my personal email and cell phone if you want to just set up a time and chat, but also I encourage you to look at that email and follow up, maybe make a new commitment for the 2024 year, right? We've got a lot of really exciting things to be part of, and we hope to see you involved. Thank you very much.